Do you ever find yourself goofing around when you should be working? Maybe you're prone to a little bit of dilly-dallying. Well, thankfully there is now a solution, and it's called locking in. And for a limited time only, when you choose to lock in, you will receive happiness, success, and will even throw in all of your wildest dreams. Potential side effects may include isolation, loneliness, and sleep deprivation. Okay, but in all seriousness, I'm sure you've seen the phrase locking in and wondered, what is it all about? From what I can tell, it looks like it's all about getting your head down and putting in the work. It's a call to action to accomplish your goals and to ignore outside distractions, which doesn't sound too bad to me. However, I actually think that there is more to it. I think people are worried. I think people are worried about getting left behind. As economies around the world take a turn for the worse and house prices go up and we're consistently being bombarded with bad news, it feels like a lot of people, including myself, aren't so sure that the future will be as bright as we once thought it would be. So locking in might actually be a solution. So let's explore what locking in is and why we might need to do so sooner rather than later. I can't help but think that a lot of people who grew up just assuming that life would turn out relatively well are now coming to the realization that it's looking a lot harder than they first thought. If life was a video game, it used to feel like we were playing on moderate, and recently it's just like someone's turned the dial up to hard or even expert. And you might be thinking, why do I believe that? Well, I'm kind of living it. For me, I only have to look back a few years to what now feels like a bit of a golden era. 2016 to 2019. Technology was still great, but definitely not as scary. No reels, no TikToks, back when we all still had more than a 10-second attention span. Or just about. Now, whether it's just rose-tinted glasses or the fact that everything literally was better, I for one felt more positive about the future. And for me personally, growing up in the UK, we kind of just see everything with a bit of a grey cloud overhead. It's just in our nature. And I definitely don't think it's me either, you know. I see so many memes, and yes, that is how we now communicate in the modern world, of people sort of reminiscing about years like 2016 and saying like, we didn't know how good we had it. Okay, so if now set the scene, things used to be cheaper, it was a bit less scary, and I personally felt a lot more confident about carving out a prosperous life. But fast forward to now, and things are definitely a bit more expensive, and the world generally feels quite volatile. So of course I can only speak on behalf of myself and maybe some other young guys in similar places, but I think a lot of people are kind of now scrapping around looking for ideas on what they can do. From what I've seen, locking in is basically a very simple way of saying work hard on something whilst avoiding distractions in order to achieve an outcome that you're after. For example, we could say that's learning a particular skill like video editing or a second language, or maybe even growing a YouTube channel. These are all things which, if executed to a really good level, can change your future. I'll take a bet that you felt locked in before. Maybe it was for an assignment that was due in the next day, or maybe just at work where you were really in the zone. And I think that's why this idea is so enticing, you know, because we've all had that experience where you get your head down and you're able to make really big strides in a short amount of time. However, if we're really honest with ourselves, those moments are quite rare. And the really exciting part of this locking in trend is that we all start to imagine what could be possible and what we could become if we were able to channel that kind of focus and that energy on one thing for an extended period of time. Personally, I often surprise myself what I can accomplish when I really focus. For example, I recently set aside 1 to 2 days to finish a video that I was working on. Then one morning, I made a coffee, decided to put my phone away from my desk, and boom, 1 hour later, it's all done. I honestly could not believe the time. I just kind of sat back and thought, wow, why don't I just do that all the time? And then I thought about how I actually work. Now, a lot of people would say, don't be so hard on yourself, everybody else does it. But the problem is, what if I don't want the results that everybody else gets? And the chances are, if you're watching this video, you're the type of person that doesn't want results like everybody else either. So can you realistically lock in for a long period, consistently, on one target? Yeah, I think that you can. But I do think it takes a particular type of person to solely do that and not sway at all. I really do respect those people, you know. the David Goggins type of people. For anyone that might not be on that same level though, including myself, we are going to fall off at times. The key here is just to notice it and then get back on track. But here's an important question for you. How serious are you about your goal? And I ask this because I genuinely think a lot of us aren't taking our goals that seriously. Another question that you could ask yourself, if you perform like an amateur, how can you expect professional results? And I know that sounds really harsh, but there is a lot of truth to it. For example, I started playing tennis this year, but I've only probably accumulated like 20 hours of practice. So how could I ever get mad at myself for not being great? So we really need to apply that to any skill or business that we're trying to do well in. If you don't want amateur results, you might need to go pro. And whilst we're on the topic of being pro, how about some pro music for your videos? And that is where MusicBed can help you out. So MusicBed are actually the first brand to help support the channel, so a big thank you to them. They've actually just launched this really cool feature where you can select a song that you know and love, and using AI, it'll use that to generate the closest matches. So essentially, if you know the kind of vibe that you're going for, you're gonna be able to find the perfect song. For example, let's pick this song and see what pops up. Okay, that is really cool, and I think one of the best things about this is not only will I be able to find the perfect songs that I need, but I think in the long run this is going to save me a lot of time. So yeah, if you're in the market for some music for your videos, then you know where to go. And if you use the link in my description, that'll also help to support the channel. I recently heard this concept from Chris Williamson, where he basically explained there was a point where he decided to go pro with his podcast. Instead of 1 episode a week with no video, he gradually worked it up to 3 episodes a week, cinema level quality, and the best guests in the whole industry. So I imagine it would have been really easy for him to think 1 episode a week is fine, maybe the cheaper microphone is okay, and do I really need to film it in such a cinematic way? But instead he decided to take it seriously, and it's now one of the biggest podcasts in the world. So this concept is originally by Steven Pressfield, and it comes from his book Turning Pro, and I really like this quote. The sure sign of an amateur is that he has a million plans and they all start tomorrow. So maybe it's time for you to turn pro with whatever goal you have. Okay, so here's why I believe that you should be hopeful whether you choose to lock in or not. I think if you're even on this kind of video, you are already the type of person that has goals and ambitions and has the ability to put in the work. I think if you're into self-development generally, then it means that you are introspective and you are trying to get better, which is more than what most people can say. That means that you are already in a group of people who are on the right path, and not only that, but the bar has never been set lower. Think about all the people that spend most of their time on their mobile phone, and the people that would laugh at you if you said that you were into self-improvement. You are already outpacing them. But although it's never been easier to start your own business and go after your goals, it's also never been easier to do absolutely nothing and to stay in your comfort zone. And that is the real problem. So to wrap things up, looking into it and just generally being a complete nerd on this topic, it seems to me like the best thing that we could all do is to pick our thing or small selection of things and go after them. Maybe after all this locking in or just basically going after your goals is a good idea. I hope that you enjoyed this video and were able to take something away from it. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then it would mean the world to me if you considered subscribing. I'll see you next time. Cheers.